Good morning. Welcome to Zoho Meeting webinars. Today, we are going to see about how to use Zoho Meeting as your online meeting and webinar solution. Before we get started, please note that the webinar is being recorded and we will also be sharing the recording with you shortly. Now, let's see how you can interact with us today. As an attendee of the webinar, you will be in listen and view only mode. I hope my voice is very clear and audible to everyone. You can also give a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you have any technical difficulty in hearing and also viewing my screen. And if you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to ask them in the Q&A option on your screen. And here we have our experts who will respond to your questions throughout the session. As an introduction about myself, this is Kavitha from Zoho Meeting team, and I will be your presenter for today's webinar. I'm an expertise in the online meeting and webinar tool. Here comes the agenda for today's session. I'm going to start with a brief introduction about Zoho Meeting and how should we use it. With the demonstration of the new version, I will give you a complete walkthrough of Zoho Meeting. Then we will have some scenarios to get an overview on how exactly the module works. Followed by this, we will learn how to set up your account with your corporate branding, add users, and also associate profiles. Finally, I'll wrap up the session with a roadmap to show you some of the upcoming features in online meeting and webinar solutions. Now, let's have a brief introduction about our online meeting software. What is an online meeting? Online meeting is a collaborative session with real-time audio, video, and screen sharing. Here, you can initiate or join meetings from anywhere and collaborate effectively with the moderator controls. So, this online meeting module will be most helpful if you want to conduct a conference, engaged in a remote work, and also provide remote clinical services to your patients. Now that we have understood how this Zoho meeting can be used as your video conferencing tool, and now we are going to see about the overview of Zoho meeting. Here comes the home screen of Zoho meeting. To schedule a meeting, you can log on to meeting.zoho.com from your browser or else from your desktop application. In the home page, you can see Meet Now and Schedule button in order to get a quick access to your online meetings. And whenever quick decisions are needed, you can just conduct an instant meetings from anywhere using the Meet Now button. And right now, I'm going to start an instant meeting and invite my colleagues in my ongoing session. So the moment when I try to start an instant meeting, it will just take me to the meeting window, and this is how the presenter screen looks like. And right now, I'm going to tell you how a participant joins the session. If you'd like to invite someone on your ongoing session, you need not to go back to your meeting details page to fetch the meeting link or the meeting ID. Because Zoho Meeting provides an option to invite the participants by getting the join link or send an invite right from the meeting window itself. Here I have already copied the link and I'm going to join as a participant for the same meeting. When a participant tries to join the session, they need not to download any application as you see here. They can just start and they can just join the meeting from the browser itself. Here they will have an option to choose the audio and the video devices of their choice so they can pick up the devices as per their requirement. Moreover, they will also have an option of joining the session using the phone audio. So, what is phone audio? It actually allows them to dial in through their phone using the dial in numbers given for the respective countries along with the access code. But right now, I'm going to choose computer audio for this meeting and I'm going to click on the done button. And here comes the participant screen, and this is how it looks like. Right. So now stepping back to the presenter screen, on the bottom menu bar, you will be provided with a list of tools and tabs with its respective features. First, let's see about Participants tab. Here you can see the list of participant names, those who have actually joined the session. From the More Actions provided next to each listing, you can see certain options and controls. Here, using the Rename option, you can replace their official names with their nicknames. Now, let's go for the second option, which is one of the moderator controls provided within the session. This Give Control option will be enabled only when you step onto a screen sharing. And it is nothing but a remote access by providing your mouse and keyboard control to your participants. Now, we go for the third option where you can remove any participants from the session when they are no longer part of your discussion. We also have an option of making a participant as a co-host from the session itself. So we have recently released this option, which will be helpful if you're having any other work or have to jump on to another meeting. You can just quickly make any of your participants as a co-host and leave the session. Now, coming to the mute icon, you can use an individual mute icon provided next to each participant, or else from the bottom, you can see there will be a mute all button to mute them in a single click. You also have search, sort, and a filter icon, which will be helpful for you to easily categorize your attendees. Now, coming to the meeting title, if you have started an instant meeting, the session will be titled after your name. But you can make use of the edit icon to change the meeting title as per your requirement. Now, we move on to the next tab, chat, and where you can have a collaborative communication among the participants using this public chat. And in order to enhance the ease of access, we have provided actually a tab view to easily navigate the chat, notes, and also the polls from the participants tab itself. Now, coming back to the chat, this is actually powered by Zoho Click, through which you can send out images, share files and documents using this attachment icon. And if you're muted during the meeting to avoid any interruption, you can make use of the microphone icon to send out voice messages through the chat itself. Moreover, the participants will also be able to have a chat conversation with the presenter as well as with the other participants. Coming back to the presenter screen, and now we are going to see about notes. We have the built-in notes feature, which is actually powered by Zoho Notebook. Using this, you can take down any important lectures and points that has been discussed during your online session. Now, let's move on to polls. Similar to webinar, we have introduced the polling option in the online meeting module. So using this, you can just conduct a quick survey during the meeting or in your conference. Here, as a presenter, you can create a set of questions, surveys, opinions using the poll, and you will be having an option to launch it right through the meeting window. So once a poll has been started, there will be a pop-up on the participant screen in order to respond to it. And once they have responded, the results will be instantly generated on the presenter screen. Now we move on to the sharing. Here comes the screen sharing, which is an essential part of collaborating during the online meeting. Anyone in a meeting can share their screen with other participants. And we have entire screen, application sharing, and also the Chrome tab sharing. If you'd like to share a specific tab, you will have a preview on which tab that you would like to share. Apart from the screen sharing, we also have the whiteboard option. We have released this whiteboard in the online meeting module. So what is a whiteboard? This is a visual collaboration tool which helps you when you are in the remote work. So let's say if you're explaining a tedious application through a demo, you can actually use this whiteboard to design a workflow about the application so that you can make your participants to understand very much easier. And the interesting part here is, as you see, the participants will also be able to collaborate during the whiteboard that you are being sharing. So this is the participant screen, and they are also able to collaborate with the whiteboard that you are sharing it. So this tool will help your participants by providing the communication very much easier. Now let's step on to reactions and raise hands. The purpose of these features is to make the session to be more interactive and engaging. The participants and the presenter can raise their hands in order to clarify their concerns. Additionally, they can also use the live reactions to react when someone is speaking. And as the presenter, here you can see the live count on the number of raised hands from the icon down below. Now, we move on to more options provided on the current meeting window. So using this, you can use the other moderator controls provided within the session and also have an option of changing the settings of your current meeting. We have already seen a moderator control from the participants tab, that is remote access. And the other one here is lock meeting. In order to conduct a secure online meeting and to minimize the interruptions, you can make use of this lock meeting feature. Through this, you can make your meetings more confidential to keep them secure from unexpected attendees. Here, you will be notified when someone tries to enter your meeting, so you can let them in only if you want to. And right now, I'm going to show you a sample on how exactly this lock meeting feature is going to work. As you see, I have locked this meeting right now, and I'm going to join as another participant for the same meeting. And I'm going to give a different name right now. And as you see, there is a page which states that the meeting is locked and waiting for an approval. And now you come back to the presenter screen. The presenter has a pop-up in order to accept or reject the entry. So this participant will not be able to join the session even though if he has the join link. And once the participant get approval from the presenter, then he can join the session. So you can use this lock meeting option as a waiting room concept for your meeting. Now let's step on to the other one, which is recording. You can record all your meetings to watch them online later, and also you can share it with the members who couldn't attend your meeting. And when you start recording the session, the participants will be notified with a recording in progress message due to privacy reasons. And moreover, I have enabled auto recording functionality for my meeting, so the session starts to record automatically without my intervention. And here we have introduced an option to pause and resume the recording if you don't want to record any part of your session. Now we move on to virtual background. Using the virtual background option, you can easily change the background or disable the same in your ongoing session. So here we also have an option of adding the custom images as your background so that you can apply them as a background during your online meeting. All right. So now we are going to see a highlighted feature based on a scenario. So here comes the scenario one. We have a presenter who got stuck with a meeting and another important work to do at the same time itself. So what will the presenter do now? In this situation, Zoho Meeting provides picture-in-picture mode where the video feeds and the share screen will shown in any application or browser if you move away from the meeting. Here you will get an option to mute or unmute the audio or video and also have an option to end the meeting in this mode. So this provides a floating window that can be dragged to any corner. So through this, you can just stay attended to the meeting while engaged with any other work on some other site. Now, let's close this and come back to the presenter window. Now we are going to see an important tools which will help you to check the performance of your network and also have an option to change the audio and the video devices from the more options. So here we have an option of checking the performance and also change the audio and the video devices. So let's say if you'd like to change your microphone devices from Bluetooth to the wired connection, you can easily change without ending the meeting. Now let's step on to layouts. So we have multiple layouts option, which will help you to view the video feeds in gallery view, active speaker, and the sidebar. And here are the other preferences listed that can be enabled or disabled according to your choice. Once the meeting is over, you can click on the exit button to end the meeting for all of your participants. All right. So as of now, we saw on how to conduct an instant online meeting. Now we are going to learn a few things in Zoho Meeting based on scenarios. Here comes the scenario 2. Let's imagine we have a business HR who had conducted a meeting with his colleagues and looking for a way to access the notes taken down during the session. Here, Zoho Meeting provides an option to collect the notes at the session summary itself. Let me tell you how. At the end of every meeting, you will be redirected to the session summary page, and this is how it looks like. So, the chat conversation done during the session can be downloaded from here itself, and you can also view the notes that has been taken down during the session. So, instead of searching for these details, you can easily access it from the session summary itself. All right. So, now let's move on to scenario 3. Here, a product manager wants to schedule a meeting with his colleague and his product client. So instead of starting an instant meeting, I'm going to show you how to just set up an upcoming meeting in advance. For this, you need to access the schedule button instead of meet now button. So this takes you to the scheduling page where you can give a suitable title for your meeting and a detailed description here in the agenda. Once you have selected these options, you need to choose the date and time and the duration on how long you want the meeting to be hosted. And coming to the host field, by default, you will be the presenter of the meetings that you schedule. But you can also use the drop down option to assign the presenter role to other members who belong to your own organization. Now, coming to the participant field, here you can easily select and invite the members from your contact list because we have done an internal integration with Zoho Contacts where you can import your primary and secondary contacts from Google, Outlook, and even from a sheet. So if you have a list of contacts from your Google or Outlook, you can just easily import it over here. Once it is done, it will be available in the meeting category and the contacts will be listed out here. Moreover, when you just start typing in their name, it will provide you an auto suggestion so you can easily pick them up. So no need to type in their email address completely, where it will be available on the auto suggestion list itself. Once the meeting is scheduled, these participants will receive an invitation email like this, which will have an RSVP section. So through this, you can know how many people will be joining the meeting before you actually begin it. So this is how the invitation looks like. It will also have a join meeting button so that the participant will be able to join the session at the scheduled time. So the invitees can click on any of the three options as maybe or no, and you will receive the response emails based on the options they choose. Now, let's go for scenario 4. Here we have a managing director of a company who wants to discuss the work progress on each and every month with his employees. So, till now, we have seen how to start an instant meeting and how to schedule a normal meeting. This managing director need not to schedule a meeting on monthly basis individually because Zoho Meeting provides an option to create recurring meetings from the normal meeting itself. So here we have a recurring meeting toggle, which will allow you to select the repeat type, which has to be a daily, weekly, or a monthly meeting. You need to specify when the meeting should repeat and when it should end. So this will schedule the events in the same recurrences for the entire series so that the participants can use the same link to join the session on each and every month. Now, let's step on to co-host. So we have a co-host option where you can add your organization users to join the meeting as a co-host. So we have already seen an option of making any participant as a co-host in your ongoing session. So this option is about how to make your organization users to add them as a co-host before you actually begin the meeting. If you're having any other work or if you don't have an access to a laptop on that particular day, you can just easily ask your co-host to start the meeting on your stead. Besides, you can also set reminders like how long before and reminder email has to be sent. So through this, you can make sure that everybody makes it to your meeting on time before it starts. So this is all about how you schedule an upcoming meeting in advance. Now let me show you how it actually works. So once done with scheduling, you can just click on the schedule button, which will take you to the meeting details page. So here you can see the complete details about the presenter, topic of the meeting, and invited participants from here. Right now, I'm going to walk you through what are all the different ways on how come a participant will be joining your meeting. The first one is if you don't remember the email address of a participant while scheduling a meeting, you can just simply copy the meeting ID and the password provided here and make your participants to join the session from meet.zoho.com. Now, let's go for the second way. That is actually a simplest way where you can simply copy this link and send it from your personal email or messaging apps. And for security reasons, now all the meetings you schedule will be password protected. The password provided here will be auto-filled and cloaked on the join link URL, so they need not to enter it manually. Now, let's go for the third way, which is only for the invitees who can use the join meeting button sent along with the meeting invite. Now, coming back to the details page, here at the right side, you will be provided with the edit and cancel button. For example, if you'd like to reschedule the meeting to postpone the session, or if you'd like to invite more participants, these buttons will be most useful for you. And unfortunately, if you're not available throughout the day to conduct that meeting, you can easily go for canceling the meeting using the cancel button. Right now, let me show you how the events will be added onto your calendars. So by default in Zoho Meeting, all the meetings you schedule will be automatically saved on your email calendar. For example, take it if you are an Outlook user, it will be added on your Outlook calendar. If you are a Gmail user, it will be added on your Google Calendar. Besides, you can also add the events to your preferable calendars. So let's say if you'd like to add that event to your Mac calendar, we have provided the ICS file in the form of add to calendar option. So when you click this on, it will download an ICS file here where you can just import this ICS file on your Mac calendar. Right now, we're going to talk about an interesting feature which is embed widget. So at the bottom here, you can see the embed widget option. Let's say if you're having a website or a portal on your own, you can just simply embed the join link URL as a website using this iframe code provided so that anyone can join your ongoing meeting by simply entering their email address. Once done with scheduling of meeting, you can either start the meeting from the meeting portal using the start meeting button. So this is all about how you schedule an upcoming meeting in Zoho Meeting. Here comes the last scenario. Some of you would like to want the previous meeting to be conducted again. For this, you need not to create a new one by filling the details all over again. To achieve this, just go to the past meeting session from the meetings tab. Here you will have a repeat meeting option through which you can clone your past meeting to make this happen in the future. Not only an option to repeat the meeting, here you can also retrieve the chat conversations, notes, and the polls that has been taken down during your online meeting session. In addition to this, you can also have an option of joining the meeting if you have been invited by any organization user. So for this, you need to access the upcoming meeting listing, and here you need to choose invited meetings from the drop down. You will get a join button here where you can join the session directly from your Zoho meeting account itself. So this will help you to save the time instead of searching for the join link from your inbox and from your calendar. And moreover, we have come up with a revamped view of the meeting listing page, which will help you to enhance the ease of access. For example, if you'd like to search for any meetings from the upcoming list, you can just go for the search button and sort out the meeting based on title, date, as well as the date range. All right. So now it's time for some question and answer. Please use the Q&A tab on your screen and we have a dedicated person here to assist you. Currently, we saw about how to conduct the online meeting and schedule an upcoming meeting in advance. Please do let us know if you have any questions about it. And in the meantime, we will move on to the next topic on how to schedule the webinars. So before we get on to this, let's have a brief introduction about our webinar software. What is webinar? It is an online training session where you can virtually present your screen in presence of the co-organizers and your attendees. So since it is a real-time session, you can keep your attendees engaged by launching polls, answering Q&A, playing videos, presenting slides and documents. So using our webinar tool, you can conduct webcasting, online events, workshop or a training session. For example, if you're giving a product demo or an application review, this tool will be most useful for you. Now, let's talk about the overview of the webinar module. Moving back to the same homepage of Zoho Meeting, click on the Webinars tab. Here you can see the list of the upcoming webinars and past webinars, and also the analytics from where you will get the webinar reports. Right now, I'm going to tell you about how to create webinars using Zoho Meeting. Here you will have a schedule button. This takes you to the scheduling page. And here you need to now design your webinar planning in a step-by-step process. The first step is scheduling, where you need to give a suitable topic for your webinar and a brief explanation of the major points that you will cover in the description. Once done with this, just choose the date, time, and the duration on how long the webinar will be organized. Now, we're going to talk about the clone webinar option. We have recently introduced this clone webinar option through which you can repeat your past webinar without filling the details again. Here you need to choose the record which has to be cloned with your current webinar so that the details of the past webinar will be automatically applied to your current webinar session. So on using this clone webinar, you can completely avoid redoing your work. Now let's jump on to the recurring webinar option. Here you can create the recurring webinar to make the webinar happen on multiple occurrences. Unlike meeting, here you will have a registration type which differentiates whether you need a single registration for a series of webinar or an individual registration for a recurring webinar. So once done with the first step, here you can click on next to add the second one. Now we're going to talk about how to add co-organizers for your webinar. While hosting a webinar, you can just lighten your load by adding co-organizers to your session. You can add as many co-organizers to your webinar and they need not to have a Zoho meeting account for it. Let me show you how to add a co-organizer. You just have to give their email address here and their name. Once done with this, they will be receiving an invitation email like this, and this is how it looks like. So they will have a join webinar button to join your session at the scheduled time. Now, let's discuss about what a co-organizer can do. That co-organizer can co-host the presentation, they can answer the questions, launch polls, record webinars, and also make an attendee to speak during the webinar. So you can just completely split up the webinar session by just handing over your job to the co-organizers, and you can just take care of the presentation. Here you can find a skip and finish button to step into the final process, or else you can click on next to add the further details. So once you click on skip and finish, this will take you to the webinar details page where you can see the complete details about the organizer here and topic of the webinar and also the description. Now, you can also see the other details provided on the webinar details page. So these details can also be added while scheduling the webinar, or else you can take enough of your time, do the customization whenever you want from the webinar details page. And right now, I'm going to walk you through the registration setup. So when it comes to webinar, the important thing that we comes to the mind is it will be the registration for a webinar. So we have two different types of setup. One is with and another one is without registration. What is with registration? Here you can make the attendees to join the session only after they register for the webinar. And let's see without registration. So without registration is nothing but you can make the attendees to join the webinar directly without any registration process. All right. Right now, I'm going to show you a live sample on how these two setups will work. Here you will find a share button and here you need to copy the webinar link from here. Once it has been copied, you can send it across to your registrants. And this is how the registration form looks like. The registrants can join the webinar once they have actually registered for it. And this is how the registration landing page looks like. So once they have filled out these details, it will take them to the landing page, which will have a join webinar option to join the session at the scheduled time. So not only an option of joining the session from the landing page, they can also make use of the confirmation email which they have received right after the webinar registration. And as the organizer, you can also manage and track those registrations from the details page. So from the details page, you will have a total count on the number of registrations, which will have the list of the registrants, those who have registered. So you can just review the registration from here. If you have any last minute change, if you don't want any registrant to attend your webinar, you can cancel that registration from the cancel option. And if you'd like to collect the audit report for your webinar, you can just go for exporting the list as CSV file. All right. So we have seen how the registration process works. And now we are going to see about how without registration looks like. After enabling without registration, you need to copy the same webinar link and share it with your registrants. And this is how the page looks like. So instead of the register button, they will have a join button instead. So instead of doing the registration, they can just directly join the session using the join webinar button. And they need not to wait for the confirmation email where they can immediately jump onto the session using the webinar link. They will have to provide their first name and the email address so that it will be most useful for the organizer in the future. And this is how you need to set up the registration process for your webinar. All right. So now we are going to see some of the features in Zoho Webinar based on some scenarios. So here comes the scenario one. And here we have a sports equipment manufacturing company has actually organized a webinar to launch their new product. For marketing purposes, the product marketer of this company is looking for a way to find the resistance where exactly they are coming from. In order to achieve this, Zoho Webinar provides an option within the application itself. So here we have a source tracking option. So to track bioresistance, where exactly they are coming from. So for this, you need to add a source for your webinar registration. For example, if your source name is Facebook, you can just give the Facebook name here, and where you will be getting a unified link for the Facebook page. So instead of copying the webinar link from here, you need to copy the link from the Facebook option, so that you will get a live count on the number of visitors and the registrants from the application itself. So this feature will help you to get a valuable information where your registrants come from and finally helps you in the business growth. Now let's step on to scenario 2. Here you're going to learn how to customize the email templates for the different emails sent to your registrants and attendees. So when it comes to webinar, a lot of email conversations can be exchanged with the organizer and the attendees and registrants. So for this, Zoho Webinar provides some of the email customization can be followed from the application itself. So for this, you need to access the email section of the details page, and where you need to click on the customize email option. So this will take you to the customization page. And here you need to choose which webinar email type that you want to customize the emails for. So let's say if you'd like to customize the attendees follow-up, you will get an option of inserting a plain text, or else you can use the predefined templates that we provide at the bottom. For an instance, let me show you an email in my email template that I have customized. So this is how it looks like. This is the customization that I have done. Similarly, you can customize it with your own branding by uploading your company logo, adding company profiles to let them know about your organization. And here you can also attach the documents if you want to send it to your attendees. So let's say if you're just organizing a workshop, if you want to send out any certificate once the session is over, you can make use of this attachments. And also, you can also have an option of sending out the links of your upcoming webinars to the attendees, those who have attended your current session. So here we have a button configuration where you can embed this as a URL here. You need to provide the upcoming webinar link and provide a customization for your button so that it will have a button customization with the webinar link. While customizing the email, you can also set up the reminders, like how long before the reminder email has to be triggered to your attendees. Here you can set up multiple reminders where you can configure them by enabling or disabling it. Now we move on to scenario 3. Some of you would like to include the recording of your webinar to be sent out to your absentees and attendees post your session. So for this, you need not to run out a separate campaign by creating it manually, because Zoho Webinar allows you to set up the recording link in the follow-up email itself. Let me tell you how. From the same email section, just go for the follow-up template. You will have a configure button here, and all you need to do is just enable the include recording toggle. And here you need to choose how long after the follow-up email has to be sent. And right now, you need to ensure that whether the customized template has been chosen and the recording link placeholder has been included inside the template or not. So for this, you need to click on the edit icon, which will take you to the customization page here. Here, you need to hover the mouse and select use so that this template will be sent out for the current webinar. And using the preview option, you can easily check the recording link has been embedded or not. So from the preview, you will also have an option to clone the template that you have created. All right. So now we step on to the scenario 4. Here in this scenario, you're going to learn how to set up the restrictions for your registrations. So when it comes to webinar, And when it comes to with registration, any number of people can register for your webinar. So we have come up with a lot of features to be restricted with the registrations based on business email address, domain, and the country. For this, you need to access the registration setup page, and here you have advanced settings. For example, if you want the registrants to come only from United States, just go for enabling this toggle and select United States from the allowed countries. So that you will get the registrations only from this respective country. Similarly, you can also block the registrations from certain countries. Here you can also set the limitation on the number of registrations. For example, once the webinar has reached the specified count, it will not further allow any registrations. Moreover, here we have provided an option of avoiding the spam registrations by allowing the registrants to join the session only from confirmation email, so that that registrant will not be able to join the session from the landing page. Now let's move on to the fifth scenario. Here you're going to learn how to keep your attendees engaged during the session and make your attendees to take action right after your webinar. In order to keep the attendees engaged during the session, we have an option of launching the polls, where you can also have an option of creating the polls before you step onto the webinar. So here we have three different types of polls: single choice, multiple choice, and another one is star rating. Not only an option of launching the polls, you can also play an introductory video using the share material option. The share material option is nothing but here you can upload the PDF, PPT slides, and videos in the session materials and present them during the webinar. I've already uploaded some from my library, and you can also do it from the desktop or as downloads of your machine. And if you are a work drive or a Zoho One user, you can just easily access the documents and the images from your work drive account itself. All right. So right now we are moving on to an important feature on keeping the attendees to be engaged once the session is over. So we have a post-webinar redirection feature through which you can have the attendees to be redirected to the site at the end of your webinar, where you can encourage them by signing up for your product, show them about your offers, and provide ratings and feedbacks for your session. So all you need to do is just enable the toggle and enter the URL here. So once the session is over, they will be redirected to that respective site. So this is all about how you can do the customization from the details page. So the final thing left out is how to promote your webinar, which comes the last stage. So here you can see the webinar registration link that can be sent out to your target audience via email, social media, and other messaging apps. So we have already seen how the registration process works, and this is how you need to get the webinar link from the share option. So instead of sharing it on your own method, we also have an option of driving the webinar registrations in the web pages and blogs. So we provide the webinar link in the form of iframe and the source code, so that can be embedded onto your site, so that your people visits the page who will know about your webinar and they will register for it. Here you can also promote the webinar through the integration of Zoho campaigns with Zoho Webinar. So Zoho campaign is actually an email campaign tool through which you can send out the email campaigns to your existing leads and contacts to attend your upcoming webinars. And instead of moving away from the tool, you can just share your webinar in your social media profiles like Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Once done with the customization and promotion, you can start the webinar from the webinar details page. Here you will have a start button here. And right now I'm going to tell you about how to launch the webinar at the scheduled time. So when you hit the start button, here you will be landed on the webinar launch page. Here you need to decide whether you're going to launch the webinar from your browser or else from your desktop application. So what is the advantage of launching the session from the desktop app? Because it provides you the video feed of yours as well as the co-organizers and also the webinar control tools in the floating window. So whenever, whatever the page you go, that webinar controls and the video feeds will be floated across the window. But right now I'm going to start the session from the browser. So it doesn't require any application download and it will take me to the preview. Here you need to choose the audio and the video sources of the choice and Similar to meeting, you will also have an option of joining the session from the phone audio. So this is actually provides a very good advantage of when you have a low internet connection. You can just simply take your mobile phone, dial in through the number given for the selective countries, and you need to dial in the number first, enter the access code and the pin, so that your audio will be connected on your mobile phone, and the video and the rest of the screen sharing and webinar controls will be from your laptop. All right, but right now I'm going to choose computer audio for this, and I'm going to click on the proceed button. This is how the organizer window looks like. Right now, let me show you how the registrants joined the webinar as an attendee. Here you can see I have already registered for this webinar, and I'm going to click on the join webinar button to join the session. The attendees need not to download any application because they can join the session from the Chrome or Firefox browser itself. They will have a join now button instead of the preview. And this is how the attendee screen looks like. Now we are back to the organizer screen. Though you have started the webinar, but you will get to have a practice session with your co-organizers before you actually begin it. So as you see, there is a start broadcast button at the bottom. This means you are currently in the practice session mode. As you see, there is a video feed has already been turned on, but the attendee is not able to view that currently, which means currently this session is in the practice session mode where the audio, video, and the screen will not be heard or viewed by the attendees. So this can be used as a communication among yourselves. And until you click on this button, attendees will have a page stating that waiting for the webinar to broadcast. Once you're ready to present, here you can click on the start broadcast button, and now the webinar will be broadcasted to all of your attendees. From the organizer window, here you can see the list of the tools and tabs with its respective features. First, let's see about the attendees tab. Here you can see the list of attendees, those who have actually joined your webinar. From the more actions provided next to each listing, you will have certain options and controls next to each and every attendee here. And by default, they will all be in listen and view only mode, which means they will not be able to talk until the organizer provides the permission. So here you can make any attendee to communicate during the session by sharing the screen, showing the webcam, and also talking. On doing this, it will make your session to be more interactive and engaging. Besides, attendees can also use the raise hand option as a signal in order to grab the attention of the organizer, just like a physical classroom. So if they have a doubt, they can just simply raise their hands, and there will be a hand icon next to the attendee who has actually used it. Besides, you can also make any attendee as a co-organizer in your ongoing session. And you can also remove any attendee from the session when they are no longer part of your webinar. Here we have a sort or also search option. And here we have a filter icon to easily categorize your attendees who have actually raised their hands and have been allowed to talk during a webinar. Now, let's step on to Q&A tab. The webinar attendees can ask any questions throughout the session from the Q&A tab. So they will have a Q&A tab provided on their screen, so through which they can raise any questions if they have any doubts or any clarification. Moreover, the attendees can also ask any questions anonymously without providing their names. So as you see, there will be a ask anonymously toggle where they can enable it. Once any question has been raised, there will be a pop-up on the presenter screen as you see here. So they will have the questions raised on their window where they can answer the question either publicly or privately. Have a bulk volume of questions, you can just segregate the question by assigning to the questions to your other co-organizers. And here we have an option of providing the predefined templates. So if you have a bulk volume of questions, you can just go for the predefined templates that we provide. And as the organizer, you can just send out the useful links, text, or email address to your attendees using the broadcast message. And moreover, you can also decline any questions if you find it unnecessary to your session. Here we have an option of setting the priority like high, medium, or low to make the answering process in priority. Now, let's step on to polls. In order to get a valuable insights from your audience, you can either create instant poll using the add poll option, or else you can go for launching the poll using the start option. So these polls has been already created before you actually begin the webinar. And there will be a pop-up on the attendee screen in order to respond to it. And once they have responded, the results will be instantly generated on the organizer window. Now, let's step on to the more options at the bottom. So from the more options, you can easily change the settings of your current webinar. First, let's see about recording. You can record the webinar and send it to anyone who couldn't make it to your session. If you're organizing the webinar as a sales group, you can share the webinar recording as a product demo or helpful video for new users. Here we have a auto recording functionality and also have an option of resuming and pause the recording. Now, let's step on to the virtual background. Similar to meeting, we have provided an option to add custom background and also choose the predefined images and GIFs as a background for your webinar. Moreover, here you can also apply the effects to your video feed to lighten up your face. Now let's move on to the third one, which is picture in picture. We have recently introduced the picture in picture concept through which you can view the video feeds and the webinar control tools in the floating window. Right. Now let's step on to the other tools that we have in our webinar as well, which is network performance. So from here, you can see the optimizations that has been taken place on your webinar. And also you have an option of changing the audio and the video devices within the webinar session itself. All right. So now we are going to see a highlighted feature here. So now we quickly jump onto a scenario instead. So as of now, we saw how to broadcast the webinar within the application. So as you see, the webinar has been created from Zoho Meeting tool, and the attendees will be joining the webinar from the same application. But what if you want to have a real-time engagement on your session? Because Zoho Webinar provides a live streaming option on your YouTube account. In order to have a wider reach for your product and maximize your audience, you can just start streaming your webinar in your YouTube channel. Here you have a live on YouTube option from more options where you can just start broadcasting your webinar in your YouTube. We also have the multiple layouts option in the video feeds, which will have the video feeds to be separated in gallery view and sidebar. Now, coming back to the attendee screen, now let's talk about the visual feedback through live reactions. So here the attendees have an option of raising the hands as well as providing the reactions. So attendees can also express their thoughts by sending out the emojis whenever an organizer is in speech. So using this, you can easily check their reactions when you specifically provide a demo or a speech. Now we are back to the organizer screen, and right now I'm going to show you the screen sharing. So using the screen sharing, you can deliver the presentation and demo about the topic you're organizing. Similar to meeting, here we have entire screen sharing or application sharing and a Chrome tab sharing. So if you specifically want to share only an application or a tab, you can go for the Chrome tab and window sharing. But if you'd like to share only the documents, you can just instead go for the share materials. We have already discussed this about while scheduling the webinar. So this is nothing but uploading only the PDF file and the PPT slides in your session materials, which will be listed out over here. It will have a share now button. If you'd like to play an introductory video before you begin the webinar, you can perfectly use this respective option. So here we have a share now button, and you need to click on the option of playing it. Now let me show you a video. So once done with playing the video, here you have an option of pausing it and also have an option to end the video here. And once the session is over, you will have an exit button to end the webinar for all of your attendees. As discussed earlier, now the attendees will be redirected to the site as per the URL mentioned on the post webinar redirection. Now, coming back to webinars tab, once the webinar is over, you will be getting a detailed analytical report on registrants, attendance data, poll results, and Q&A. For an instance, let me show you a sample report here. Previously, we saw on a scenario why you have to get the registrants details before you begin the webinar. But right now, from the webinar analytics, you will be getting all the details like registrants, attendees, poll results, and Q&A. From the generate report, you can download a consolidated report about the number of attendees, registrants with respect to their email address and their participation status. If you'd like to download a performance report, you can download it as XLS or CSV files. Now, let's move on to recordings. So as of now, we saw on how to host and schedule the meetings and webinars. Right now, we are going to learn how to revisit that topic that you have discussed during the session. Here from my recordings, you can see the list of all the session recordings of meetings and webinars separately. Here you can replay the recordings online using the play option. Who couldn't make it to your webinar, you can easily share the recording link with them. Here you have a download icon here where you can download it as an MP4 format for offline use. And we have a couple of features that has been released recently in the recordings tab. The first one is public access, which is available in the share button. We have this accessibility permission for recording where you can disable this public access few days after sharing the link with your attendees. So here you can decide whether you need to share the recording link with anyone, no one, or anyone in your organization. Also have provided an option of bulk selecting the recordings, which will help you to delete the recordings in mass. So this will help you to delete the recordings in bulk, which actually saves your time. And here we have a sort option where you can search the recordings based on title, date, as well as the date range. Right. So currently we saw about how to initiate the sessions from your web browsers if you have a laptop or a desktop. But what if you don't have a laptop or a desktop by that time? So we are going to now learn about the other ways of joining the session. Zoho Meeting has iOS and Android application for mobiles to get connected remotely when you don't have an access to a laptop or a desktop. You can use the Zoho mobile applications to hold meetings, attend live webinars, participate in polls, make video calls, and much more. So all this can be done from the Zoho Meeting mobile application. Right now, we're going to learn how to set up your account. So right now, let me tell you about how to customize it as per your requirement. You have a dedicated settings for Zoho Meeting, and from my settings you can set up the local information such as the time zone of your location and time format by making it as a default option for the future meetings and webinars that you schedule. And also, we provide multi-language support system that is an essential part to avoid the language barriers. So we provide an option to choose a preferred languages provided on the dropdown of your Zoho Meeting account. Now, let me tell you how to sync the meetings and webinars to your Google Calendar. If you have a Gmail account, you can enable this Add to Google Calendar option, which will add the meetings and webinars to your Google Calendar automatically. Here, you need to choose the Google account for which account you want that events to be added. So let's say if you're an Outlook user, but you want to add the events to your personalized Gmail account, this option will be most useful for you. And below that, you can see the other meetings and webinar related settings provided that can be enabled or disabled according to your choice. Because it is a user based setting that will be available to all the users in your organization. Now, coming to manage organization, here you can promote the brand by adding your company name and logo to the email headers of invitations, reminders, and registration forms. And we have the recording settings provided that has been released recently, through which you can decide and set up the layouts and other recording options for your sessions. We also have custom domain feature through which you can have a unique branded name on the URL that actually identifies your website. The options provided under Manage Organization can be decided only by the administrator because it is a org based setting that will be available only to the administrator. Now, moving on to user management, here you can manage all the users and their respective profiles. Through this tab, you can designate the roles of each user as well in order to maintain their organization hierarchy. For example, if you want to change the role of that respective user, you can easily change it over here. Now, Moving on to departments, this is a newly released feature which allows you to categorize your entire organization into small groups. So, this will actually help you to increase the ease of managing the users. You can create the departments on your own using the add department option and add users to any number of departments as per your requirement. Here we have an email section for webinar through which you can add the reply to email address to which the registrants and attendees can reply to clarify their concerns. This reply to email address can be of a team, department, or members in your organization who can answer the queries instantly. So, this makes the process simple by handing over your job to your team members. Here we have a security tab which will help you to anonymize all the personal data such as name, email address, IP address, and other registration related information. We also have an action log viewer through which you can easily check the list of activities performed by the users and the date when it was performed. We have now introduced the data cleanup option through which you can do a periodical removal of your older information, that is about your analytical report, recordings, and other actions taken place in your account. Here we have a subscriptions tab through which you will get the current subscription details of your Zoho Meeting account where you can manage the same. And here you can easily check when will be your next renewal date. Now, moving on to integrations, Zoho Meeting provides integration with other Zoho products such as CRM, bookings, campaigns, mail, backstage, projects, begin, connect, and flow. So not only the integration with Zoho products, we also have the integration with third-party major applications. We have already seen the Google Calendar sync with meetings and webinars from Zoho Meeting settings. The other integrations that we have over here is Microsoft Teams and the Slack integration. So using this integration, you can conduct instant meetings with your people directly from your Teams channel. So with this Zoho Meeting and Slack integration, you can just start an online meeting using the simple Slack commands from your workspace. Now, moving back to the homepage of Zoho Meeting, here at the top, you can see the download button through which you can download the desktop app right from here. So from the desktop app, you can overcome the browser limitation and enjoy the session, which will be of better stability and optimization. We also have extensions for Zoho Meeting. Since I'm using the meeting portal via Chrome browser, the Chrome extension is being displayed. We also have extensions for Firefox browsers. We also have an Outlook plugin. This is another third-party integration that we provide. The Zoho Meeting plugin for Microsoft Outlook can be downloaded from here, which will help you to schedule meetings directly from your Outlook account itself. For example, if you'd like to schedule an upcoming meeting in advance from your Outlook calendar, you can make use of this respective option. So this is all about the features and functionalities that we have in Zoho Meeting. And right now, I'm going to show you what are all the features which are being handled in our upcoming update. First, let's see for webinar. We are going to launch the chat option between the organizer and the co-organizers very soon. Similar to meeting, we are developing the whiteboard option to annotate during the webinar. Now, let's see the features that are handled in meeting module. We are developing the meeting reports, private chats, and also have an option of sharing the materials. Moreover, we are working on to support the pin video and also play a video files directly from the screen sharing session. Now, it's time for some question and answer session. So please ask your questions and we have a person here to clarify your queries and questions. In today's session, we have seen how to organize the webinars and conduct an online meeting in Zoho Meeting. And kindly let us know if you have any questions about any of the features and functionalities that I have mentioned today. And in the meanwhile, we're also going to see some of the frequently asked questions and the answers related to it. Here's the question on how to annotate during the meeting. The answer to the question is both the presenter and participants can share a whiteboard and collaborate, where they can also have an option of annotating, draw, and sketch. Here's the second question that is related to the background image of the video feed during the session. The answer is you can select the predefined images and GIFs and also upload custom images of your choice in both meeting and webinar. And here comes the last question, that is about security and privacy in online sessions. So the answer is Zoho Meeting is absolutely secure because the tool offers multiple security features to keep your meetings safe from disruption. For example, we have already seen how to lock your meetings and also have the password protected meetings for every meeting that you schedule. Besides, Zoho Meeting also encrypts the audio, video, and screen sharing in order to keep your information safe during the disruption. I hope you all have explored and enjoyed during this webinar. And I believe the demonstration that I gave in this webinar is very useful for you. Here, you can also share your experience in our Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter and let us know about your experience. You can also reach us at support@zohomeeting.com